Somewhere between reality and imagination lies the realm of the paranormal. A place filled with spirits, magic, and the unexplained. Come with us on our journey to discover if the stories are true or if they are all just smoke and mirrors.
Welcome to Smoke and Mirrors, the podcast that dives deep into cases of the paranormal, the unusual, and the unexplained to separate the facts from the fiction. I am your host, Daryl.
And I'm Cindy.
And today we are going to be talking to Jason Prater from R.A.P.P Paranormal to discuss his take on ghost hunting, equipment, and what's really going on in the spirit world. But before we get into that, I want to announce the winner of our Smoke and Mirrors t-shirt contest. Let me reach into my hat here. Okay, let me open this up. And the winner is Choo Choo Stu from Cave Crew Radio. Stu, I'll be getting in touch with you to get your info. Thanks again to everyone who participated and everyone who listens. So without further ado, let's get into the interview.
Today we would like to welcome to the show paranormal investigator and member of the R.A.P.P ghost hunting team, Jason Prater.
How are you doing, Jason?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
We're doing good.
Tell the folks who are listening a little bit about R.A.P.P, what it stands for, and a little bit about what you do as part of the group.
Yeah. R.A.P.P, it's Research of Anomalous and Paranormal Phenomenon, and we thought it was kind of a clever name because I started ghost hunting, I guess you'd say around 2001 or so, because I was a big fan of Coast to Coast. I'm sure you've heard it. But the first time I'd really ever heard about EVPs, they had a guy that was on there, and he was talking about EVPs and telling me how to do it. So it was a while after that, but I was like, he says anybody can do this, I'm going to go out and do it. And, we had gone out to Stones River Battlefield in Murfreesboro, and we had taken a recorder, and we were there. We got really lucky. We really did, because we were there for, I would say, 3 hours, and that's not very long. And that whole 3 hours we were there, we didn't record the whole time. We probably got 30 minutes of audio. And the last spot we went to on the tour, we actually got an EVP. And, my wife was, at the time, she wasn't my wife, but we were on our way home. And she was listening to it, and she said, well, I think we got one, So listened to it, and sure enough, after that I was hooked. So we've been ghost hunting quite a bit, me and her, but later on, Chas and Simon, we decided to start doing it. And here recently, over the last year or two, we've started uploading them to YouTube. We'll take video, and we've been uploading them to YouTube. But we've been doing it, I would say, as a group, we've been doing it for about 3 years. But, me and Mary Jo have done it off and on since early 2000s.
So it was Coast to Coast that got you into ghost hunting. But I was wondering if there was a specific event that got you interested in the paranormal field.
When I was growing up, our house is haunted. I'm 100% positive about that. If my sister is on here, either of my sisters, they would say the same thing. But it wasn't like a haunted, like I said, it's not like I have, I've lived in 80 different haunted houses. I can't speak, about how it is in every situation. But at, my parents' house, it wasn't like it is like in movies where, they got to keep your attention span for 3 hours and something's constantly happening. Something would happen, I would say every 6 months to a year, and lots of times it wasn't anything super significant, but something would happen constantly. And from a pretty young age, I knew, there was something going on, but, it took a while before it really clicked with me. Okay, that's what's happening here. But there used to be a show when Sci-Fi Channel first started. This is about 1990, I guess it was. There was a show that first aired with it, and it used to be a California public access show. It was called Mysteries Beyond the Other Dominion.
Oh, yeah.
And it had a guy, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It was like early, first couple years Sci-Fi Network was on. And they had a guy on there named Dr. Rule. He was nuclear physicist, I believe is what he was, but he was also a ufologist and was into cryptozoology. But he had a show and he did a little bit of everything. He'd do, stuff everybody had heard about, like Bigfoot or, UFOs, but he did a lot of weird stuff too that a lot of people had never heard of, like Bardogers. I'd never heard that term before. And it's interchangeable a lot with like, what they call them, doppelgangers.
Yeah.
But it is a different slight phenomenon, but he would do stuff like that you never heard of before, and I really had never heard of since. But that was something me and my dad would watch every week. So, I was really into it. And around that time, that's when, Unsolved Mysteries did the Roswell episode, and, Fire in the Skies came out in the theaters. So I've always been into, like, that kind of stuff. I've just always thought it was interesting because, when you get down to it, that's the biggest questions in life. Are we alone in the universe? That's, the whole UFO phenomenon has to do with it. And, is there life after death? That's the ghost. So, I'm really surprised more people don't take it more serious. When it comes to ghosts, I can see if somebody's never had the experience, just hearing people talk about it, I could see easily how somebody'd be like, yeah, I don't really believe it. That's kind of crazy. I've never seen anything like that. I don't believe. With the UFOs, I've never seen a UFO. I've looked and looked and looked, trust me. But I definitely believe there's enough evidence out there. I don't have to actually see one to think there is something going on.
Yeah.
I agree with you about that. So, Jason, when you decide to do an investigation, go through with us kind of how you start and the things that you do to set up for it, and kind of, if you don't mind, take us through the steps of doing an investigation.
Well, usually, like when we were going to go to Cansboro, that was one reason I brought that up. So we had talked to the woman, and, we were trying to work out if we could come out there sometime. So she said, well, let's find out. And she called me, and, there was a lot of phone calls back and forth, and we finally got worked out. But at the last minute, she called and said, well, are y'all going to videotape? And I was like, we're planning on it. We'll put it, we're going to end up putting it on YouTube. And she came back, and whoever her superior was or whatever had told her that we had to have like $1 million insurance policy if we were going to do that. We could come up there, but if we were going to videotape it, we had to have the insurance policy. It made no sense to me at all. But, so that fell through. And I wasn't going to lie to her and say, well, we're not going to upload it. Nobody will see it. So we just didn't go and do that one. But usually we'll see something. And my wife's usually one that does all the legwork. But a lot of these places, like the big-time places that you hear a lot about, like Waverly Hills or something like that, you got to do that super in advance. It's kind of like going to Florida. If you go to Florida on vacation, you really got to book that kind of stuff in January if you want to have any kind of say-so about when you do it. If not, you kind of just have to work your way in. There's a place here in Tennessee, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. That place is kind of a pain to get in, but we ended up getting in there like within a week or so. We heard about it. There was an opening and we got in. But and Hills Bar Dam, that's another one we went. We found out, my wife called and woke me up and said, we can go, but we have to go tonight. If we don't go tonight, it might be a year before we can go. Yeah. So that one, there wasn't a whole lot of planning. We just kind of packed everything up and went. But usually when we go, somebody at all these places will give you a tour, kind of like you see on the TV shows. They'll go through and they'll tell you the stories, tell you what's going on. And lots of times we'll just come up with some kind of simple game plan and just kind of play it by ear. Lots of times when we go, and I edit a lot out before we put it on, online.
Yeah.
But lots of times when we go, we'll hit all the rooms for a little bit, go back to the places where there were stuff, because lots of times some of these places we've gone, we'll spend about 45 minutes to an hour in a room, nothing's going on, so we go to the next spot. But seriously, within a few hours, halfway through the night, we've done everything. So we'll go back a second time to like places where we got quite a bit. So, trying to get more.
Yeah. Now, during an investigation, how do you decide what equipment is right for that location?
Well, okay, that's the thing about ghost hunting is, see, Chaz, she scuba dives. She does that all the time. She loves it. And she compares paranormal research to scuba diving because no matter who you talk to, no matter who, they're always an expert. They always know best. And that's what trips me out there. When we went to Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, I honestly cannot remember the guy's name, and even if I could, I wouldn't, call him out like that. But there was a guy there, and this is the main reason this video went up on YouTube. All the investigations we've done and done video for, there's been a couple times nothing's happened, and I'm not going to put, a 45-minute long video of us investigating and nothing happening. That just happens. It's the nature of the beast. But this video, this is the only time I've ever seen anything. I saw a black mass, and it was only for like a second or two. I didn't get it on video, or I would show it on, put that on YouTube. But, if the camera was 20 degrees more to the right, I would have. But anyway, we go, and this guy, I met some pretty pompous people in my life. And you can ask Chaz and Mary Jo, they were with me. I'm telling you, it really got to the point where I thought this guy was messing with me. I thought he was joking, like trying to, come across like that. But he came, and he had like this big banner. Because before we went, they had a thing on their Facebook page saying, well, we got so-and-so with us tonight, and they were talking about him. And I've always watched this stuff. I always read about this stuff. I'm pretty well-versed in ghost hunting type stuff. So when I heard his name, I was like, well, who is that? I thought maybe I'd never seen before, so me and my wife looked him up. She didn't know either. So we looked him up, and we found his Facebook page and where he was talking about himself and what all he'd done, but that's really all we could find. So we get there, and I'm not joking you, he's got this big banner he's made hanging up behind him. He's got a table set up. He's got all these headshots where he's doing autographs to these people. Never, like I said, I swear to you, never heard this guy in my life. So at first we started talking to him. Everybody did. But when we went, it was like a stay the night. There was a lot of people there that night, but a lot of them were staying the night. We stayed the night, but we didn't sleep. A lot of people had like little cots set up there, but this place is in pretty bad shape, and that's one. And two, we wanted to actually investigate. We didn't want to go somewhere like a bed and breakfast type situation. So, we kept investigating. Everybody slowly started going to bed, and by 1 o'clock, everybody was out except for this guy. So when we were going around investigating, he started following us too. Well, it just got worse and worse. He was getting on to us about how, and it got to the point where we did leave pretty early that night because I was really starting to get mad because, he was just being a jackass about everything. He was telling us we were holding an EMF detector. We were holding it straight up and down. He was like, no, you got to hold it to the side. I was like, well, why do you have to hold it to the side? That makes no damn sense. It doesn't. Yeah. You don't, when you're taking, if you're taking some kind of measurement, if you take it to your house, if you got, a K2 meter, take it to your house, put it to your fuse box. It doesn't matter which way you have it turned. You can have it backwards. The thing is going to go off.
Yeah.
Electromagnetism is a radiation. It doesn't matter. You can have it behind your back. If you're close enough to it, it's going to go off. It radiates out in every direction. It's not like you have to have it at a pinpoint spot or it's going to light up. So I found that everybody, no matter who it is, will know exactly what's happened. When we went to Hellspark Den, the guy Storm, you see him in the video. But off camera, he was talking about, different places. His feeling is when someone gets, or a place gets visited quite a bit, the haunting level will die off. He talks about when people are there, it takes a lot of the energy away from it. That kind of stuff doesn't happen as often. And, that might be true, might not. I have no idea. I'm not arguing the point either way. But, right after that, he was like, it's like graveyards. He said, you'll never get anything from graveyards. And, I have, the first time I got anything was there at Stones River Battlefield. It was near a monument near some graves, and, who knows? Maybe it was one of the ghosts of people in the grave, or maybe it was somebody just walking through. But I did get one there. You can't just say, people, when it comes to paranormal research, if you look at how people that ghost hunt do it compared to an organization like MUFON, it's completely night and day. Yeah. MUFON, anybody involved with MUFON has got some kind of professional expertise, either in science some way, or they're a professional investigator. They've got some kind of credential that adds to the organization. It's not like that with something, And, it's kind of unfair to put the two because, there's physical trace evidence lots of times with these UFO cases. There's not with paranormal, but when you look, MUFON puts on a thing every year, and they showcase like their best cases because every year they take, I believe it's their three best cases, and they'll put them out there for peer review. There's nothing like that in ghost hunting. And there's so much speculation with it, and people just going with hunches, and these hunches get told and told, and people just start believing.
Yeah.
One that I like to point out, and, there's a lot of people that believe in this. I don't know. For me, and a lot of people will disagree with me, for me, I think it's a bold enough leap to think, okay, after we die, we might come back as a ghost. I think that's a bold enough belief. You could tell about half the population that, and they'll believe you. Half the population is not. And I can say that because of polls they've done over and over. It comes out to roughly about half the population believes in ghosts. So that's a big enough step for me to take. I'm not willing to take many more steps. And I believe there are dark entities, I think there could be demons, stuff like that. But, when you go to these places, people are like, well, this is a demonic, force. There's no doubt about it. Well, There is doubt about it. There's no proof. Prove to me it's a demon, and there'll be the thing about, they're getting scratched and it's 3 marks. Oh, well, they're making fun of the Holy Trinity. Okay, I've got a theory. My theory is after you die, you lose your pinky and your thumb, and that's why people get 3 stitches. It makes just as much sense as saying it's a demon. You don't know.
Yeah.
You can't prove that. And you can't just start saying stuff like that and everybody go with it because, well, that kind of makes sense. It must be the truth. That's not how science works, and that's not how this should be taken. If you just do that about everything, that's how you're going to get some ball ideas.
Yeah.
It's like with the UFO stuff, I believe there's stuff up in the air. There's a lot of evidence for that. I think it's more irrational not to think something's going on than, some of the explanations they give, like swamp gas. That's crazy, And that was J. Allen Hynek. There was a massive UFO sighting in Michigan, and he had blamed one of them, but there was interviews with him where he was talking about, they had pushed him to come up with an excuse, no matter how wild, just to come up with one to explain things. And, there's stuff like that all the time. I'm like, y'all are crazy. And that's where you get the people that believe in, reptilian overlords and stuff like that, just these crazy ideas. There's not much room between the rational and the crazy people.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I'm a member of several of the paranormal groups on Facebook, and it always kind of makes me laugh when someone says that they're an expert on the paranormal. There's no such thing. If you can't,
everybody is.
Yeah. If you can't measure it or test it in a lab or repeat the thing over and over and over again, you're not an expert. There's nothing to be an expert on. I mean, it's literally everyone's best guess.
No, I know. Well, I'm in several on Facebook, UFO and Ghost, and there's not many of them that cross over. But one of the ones I'm in, there's a lot of people that are on there just to troll. They are.
Yeah.
Because, every time somebody says something, they just start in on. I'm like, why in the heck do you want to spend your time in a group like this, But anyway, there was one lady who had commented, I wonder how many people in this group actually believe because, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's always, making fun of everything. And the guy who had responded to her first, he had made the comment. And I agreed with him 100%, and I felt bad for him. But he made the comment. He was like, kind of like what I just said. He said, I believe in UFOs. He said, but, when you start talking about underground Antarctic bases and, all these, like, Nordic, aliens that are coming in, I don't necessarily believe that. And everybody started in on him. Like, they're like, oh, well, how do you know if you hadn't seen him? Just going off and just, being just a jerk to this guy, just bullying the crap out of him. It was several people. And, I wanted to step in, but I was like, heck, I don't want to get all this on me, But I was like, the guy's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's one in particular that I'm a part of that I really like because the people who are in the group as a whole will generally try to debunk something first. That's the first thing they're going to do. And I've seen so many people get mad because pareidolia or, whatever it was. I mean, there are people in there who are experts when it comes to photography and things like that. And those are the people that can be experts. They're an expert in an actual field that has to do with that. And so when they come in and say, no, that's not what this is, I can tell you what's causing this. And then people get mad and throw a fit because, somebody shot down their belief. It was like you were talking in that one video. There's usually 2 camps. There's that camp that's they're not going to believe anything, and you have a camp that wants to believe everything.
Yeah.
And for me, I want to debunk everything I can possibly debunk. And then if there's something left after I've debunked what I can debunk that's unexplainable, hey, then I've got to say, yeah, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, that's the thing. It's almost like a religion to a lot of people. And I think probably as you've seen religion fall off in people's lives, believing in ghosts is like pretty much a form of spirituality. And, they think of it as a religion. They get really emotional about it, but there's no reason to get emotional. And I'm open to, I'm probably wrong about a lot of the stuff, I believe in. The stuff I've seen, I can't prove that to anybody. I can't say, okay, but it proves it to me. That's all I need to prove it to, But yeah, no, a lot of people just get way too emotional about it, and, hey, everybody can be wrong. Like I said, I believed in some crazy stuff, and later on I've been like, okay, I don't think there's anything to that. One of the prime examples is, again, this is probably about the early 2000s, and I don't know if either one of y'all, I'm sure you've heard of it, but are very familiar, but the rods phenomenon. Do you guys remember that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I remember that.
And I really did think there was something to it because, they had behind-the-scenes footage of them filming Braveheart, and there was sun in the sky and stuff like that. I really did believe in this. I was like, well, that's kind of crazy. And I was watching Monster Quest, I think is what it was, and they pretty much just, that one episode, they showed what it was video interlacing, taking an insect and it stretched out, make it look like this weird thing. And from that point on, I've been like, there's probably a lot of stuff like that they can't find an explanation for easily. But there is a simple explanation for it. And I try to keep that in mind. That's why there's not a whole lot that gets me excited. If I see any kind of video or footage, it's all subjective. At any point, somebody could have faked it, or you might be seeing something wrong. There's a lot of pictures I see, especially in those paranormal groups, like you're saying, where, that doesn't really look like anything to me, but people are like, well, it kind of looks like a face. Well, kind of looks like a face isn't really anything, And, if they want to believe it, that's fine, but it's not going to convince me. And anybody that is going to look at that and be like, oh, my God, you're right, ghosts do exist. That's not the kind of person you want to convince because it's not going to take them much to get convinced,
Yeah. And the thing is, the human brain is designed to recognize patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as well as I do that human beings are going to look at something or listen to something and try to hear maybe or see something that really isn't there because the brain wants to make sense of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We evolved over millions of years to look for things hiding in the brush that have a face, like a lion or a tiger or whatever, and that's very helpful if you're trying to survive. So our brains have evolved where, okay, well, that looks like two eyes and a nose. Something is in that bush looking at me, where a lot of animals just couldn't do that. We, over time, got that ability, and, it's for a good reason, but it can also work against us lots of times.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with that. A lot of the EVPs I hear from TV shows or on YouTube, I can't make out what they're saying. And they'll put the words up there for you. And then once you see the words, lots of times you'll find, well, damn, that does sound like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's you reading it and saying, okay, that's what it is. And I'm not saying it doesn't sound like speech to begin with, but you can't make out what it's saying. But once you see those words, now I can make out what it's saying.
A lot of people I don't think realize that after you've recorded something and then you're running it through an editing software, that can actually change the way something sounds as well. So they end up hearing something that maybe really wasn't there to start with, but because of the editing software, it's so hard to get convincing evidence in this field. And I think that it's because maybe so many people put out so much stuff that is rubbish. And you look at it and you go, man, or you hear it and you go, come on now. And so it's so hard to sort through that until you find someone that's actually really going through a process and saying, okay, yeah, we've eliminated all of this already, but this we can't quite eliminate. And then all you can do is put it up for public opinion. And that's really all you can do.
But paranormal, it's kind of like a flea market. You have to search and search for the good stuff. You know, most of it's crap you're passing by.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. And for me, and I don't know how you feel about orbs in particular, I've never seen one instance of an orb that I thought, oh, that's not either light reflecting off a bug or light reflecting off dust.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And I don't even think I've seen mist in pictures and stuff like that. And, you know, there's lots of explanations for it. You know, if you've got a strap hanging in front of the camera, when you take a picture, it doesn't look like a big dark strap in front of the camera. When you took a picture, it looks like a glowing thing because of the flash reflecting off of it and stuff. There's lots of stuff in pictures. There's actually only a few pictures I actually think are pretty good, like Freddie Jackson. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I'm sure you have. But the Freddie Jackson photo, that's pretty convincing to me. But when you start getting into the modern era, even with Photoshop, none of them, you know, they do some amazing things with Photoshop. People that don't know what they're doing, you know, those, you know, end up being memes lots of times. But there's some amazing things people could do with Photoshop. So, you know, you always have to take that stuff with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And I've seen so many pictures where people go, well, look at this mist. You know, it wasn't there when we took the picture. Well, of course, you couldn't see it with your naked eye. But when the flash hit, it reflected off of those water particles, and that's what you're seeing. And
it could have been your breath, you know.
Yeah, it could be anything. But when you're looking for evidence and you're going through evidence, what kind of evidence for you really stands out and makes you go, okay, I've got to really look at this? And what process do you go through to try to debunk it first before you put it out there?
Well, it depends on what it is. Video-wise, we've never really gotten anything on video that I think has been anything good. Everything we get is audio. Now, with the spirit box, it depends on the piece of equipment, how much you believe in it. Now, the spirit box, that's something I do. That's the thing is it can pick up radio. It picks up radio stations, you know, it goes through. So you always kind of have to be like, you know, well, damn, was that a radio station? But like when we were at Hellsbar Dam, there's video of this. It kind of, we go back and forth. It seems like with something, you know, for a while. And, you know, we would, you know, at one point I was like, can you say this? And it really did sound like it was coming back and saying that. And before this, we were letting the spirit box run and we weren't picking up any kind of radio signal. Couldn't even barely get any cell phone reception where we were at the time.
Yeah.
So something like that, you know, that's the thing. You can't really debunk it because that's what it's designed to do is pick up radio stations as it's going through. So you can't say, you know, it's only on each radio station for about half a second. So in 2 seconds time, it's gone through 4 radio stations. Now, if you take your radio dial, depending on how strong the FM station is or whatever, you can, for, you know, a couple not stations over, but, you know, a couple clicks over, you could still kind of pick up the radio station. So, you know, if it goes through enough of the sweeps and we're, you know, and it's like one long word, that's pretty believable to me. You know, if it's more than a couple syllables, then chances are it's not, you know, and it's the same voice, it's not the same radio station you're picking up. The thing about it is most answers we've gotten on it aren't like that. So like with Hellsbar Dam, we were somewhere where we couldn't really get signal. It convinces me, but I could easily see if it wasn't us doing the footage and I'd seen somebody on the internet, I wouldn't have been impressed by it, you know, if it was somebody else. But EVPs I put quite a bit in because EVPs is one of the very few things where I think the explanation for it is less believable than, you know, just believing you're catching maybe a spirit talk, because the most common thing people say, skeptics will say about EVPs is you're picking up like radio or some kind of, you know, radio or cell phone conversation, something like that. And, you know, if it's radio, I've never had an EVP of any kind of musical instrument at all. Never. Now, the spirit box, you will get some stuff like that coming through because it's picking up the radio stations, but EVP I never have. Most of the time with EVP, the good ones, it will have something to do with what we're saying. The first one I ever got at Stones River, like I was telling you, was the last spot we were at on the tour of the Stones River battlefield. And I'd said, you know, did you have any friends that died here? And that was the one question I'd asked 20 before that, never got a response. And you can hear somebody at the end of it whisper friends, just the word friends. And, you know, it creeped me out. But, you know, that had something to do with what I was talking about. There's nobody on the radio. The probability of somebody whispering the word friends over the radio, me picking it up right after I asked the word friends, at a certain point you have to, that's not a good explanation for what's going on. Yeah. So, EVPs, that's probably the best evidence in my opinion,
Yeah.
But like I said, we never really got anything on video. The K2 hits, a lot of people put a whole lot of faith in K2, and I do too, but there's just so much around us, it's hard to say. Even the places we go that, like a Waverly Hills, somewhere like that, they still have electricity running through that place. You can't go through and turn all these lights on, but they still have, because a lot of the year they run a haunted house through there. So, they're not having a bunch of people run around and play dark. They have wiring ran so they can run lights and stuff. So there's always, even if you can't go into a building and just hit lights on lots of times, there's still power there. So, even if you're getting hits with that, there's possibilities it could be other than a ghost.
Yeah, and I've even seen experiments done with K2 meters where it actually picks up the electricity from the human body. And that you could be setting it off and not even know it.
And I've also looked into, I could never find any kind of anything on this, but I've tried to look at just rogue electromagnetic waves, see if that's a thing, and I couldn't really find anything about it, but probably science isn't really looking into that, but you got to think we're on top of, the biggest magnet we know. Every compass in the world points towards north. And electromagnetism, it's electromagnetism. It's not magnetism. It's not electricity. The two forces are two manifestations of the same thing. It's an electromagnetic force. So anytime in any system there's electricity, you're going to have some kind of magnetism form.
Yeah.
Same thing with magnetism. It's going to be very minute levels, but you're going to have electricity going through that. You can't do one without the other. So, just because you get hit on that, you never know. It might be some seismic activity a couple miles underneath you. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm not saying, I believe that's what it is every time, but there's that possibility. So you have to keep that in mind.
And that's one of the things I think that for me is a little bit hit and miss is some of the equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Just because, like I said, you can get false hits, and then the spirit box, I just have my doubts about it, and I can't quite get past those doubts. Now, some of the recorders, for EVPs, and I've heard some, I guess what they would classify as Class A EVPs. And if those are real, then some of them are phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, the problem, I think, becomes that because of a lot of the ghost hunting shows that have faked so much stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You have to worry that maybe they faked it. You don't know. You hate to automatically jump to that conclusion, but it's hard not to.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. And a lot of the equipment people use, I'm just scratching my head about. A lot of people will probably disagree with me on this, but like the Ovilus, where it just randomly says words, I mean, come on. You really think a ghost is getting into this piece of machinery, figuring out how it works to say these words? Like on Ghost Adventures, they're really bad.
Yeah.
They'll go into a place and, they'll get the word Dave and they'll say, oh, my God, nobody named Dave is associated with this place, but I bet they knew somebody named Dave. And they'll just take it to extremes. And then the next thing will come up, it'll say bathtub. And they'll say, I bet he took a bath right before he died. They'll just go crazy with it. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? That's ridiculous. So, yeah, the Ovilus, I think I would never use one. I would never waste my money on that. We, just for shits and giggles, my wife had downloaded one time. And we were going through, and sure enough, we'd drive by the bank, and it would say bank. It was like SunTrust.
Yeah.
Anyway, it started looking. I was like, this thing wants your permission for, Google Maps. It's just reading off places, they've got some kind of algorithm in there that's saying, okay, when you get near this, say this.
Yep, you're at the bank. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of that crap. The Ovilus, I think's silly. I've even, I've seen some people out there, not a lot, but I've seen a couple times them out there with Geiger counters, and they've never gotten anything with a Geiger counter that I've seen. I think it's just wanting to do something different. Say, hey, we tried a Geiger counter, did good enough. But yeah, and one of the ones that I see all the time on Ghost Adventures, they use I forgot the SLS camera, I think is what it is. It's pretty much a Xbox Connects, and we've got a Connects.
Oh, yeah.
But every time they show that thing, I'm not convinced slightly by that thing, because what it does, it's like us. It looks for patterns. It's going to look, if something, a piece of dust is reflecting light, and there's a few of them, it's going to try to make that into a body. It's going to do everything in its power because that's exactly what it's designed to do, and it's on the lookout for a body constantly. And every time they get something with that SLS camera, it's always like 2 inches tall, on their shoulder, lasts for 2 seconds, and it's doing something sporadic. Yeah. Now, if they had one that, showed a regular-sized person standing in a doorway and then slowly waving at the camera, that'd be one thing. They don't ever, it's always like, oh my God, it's dancing on your head, man. That's, but, there's a lot of stuff like that. I just don't, there's no credibility to that at all,
What's maybe the most compelling evidence that you've ever caught?
I don't know. Well, the EVPs is really the only thing I'm like, yeah, there's, something to that. And that first one I got, man, I was like, let's say I was probably about 22 at the time, 23, was out on my own, didn't have a lot of money, still don't, but, especially then didn't have much money. So I'd gone to Walmart, and that's where I bought the digital voice recorder. And they had two there. They had one for like $20 and they had one for $30. So of course I got the $20 one. So I got that, my first EVP. I was all excited. So I hooked it up to the computer, was going to try to take it off. And I took it off, but it was some crazy file format. It wasn't a WAV format. It wasn't an MP3. It was some crazy proprietary like 2Z2 or something crazy like that. And I looked and looked online for some software to convert that. Couldn't find anything. So I was sick, and since then, the recorder's kaput, so there's no way I can ever even listen to it again. But, I really wish I would have been able to catch that one. But, no, there's been a few EVPs we've gotten during our investigations that have been pretty good. Now, some of them, you can barely make out what is being said, but that's the thing about it, man. Honestly, that's what gets me pumped and wants me to keep going is, when you get good stuff like that, because it is, when you get it and it wasn't fake, it's pretty cool,
Yeah.
Has anything ever happened that scared you?
Well, when I saw the black mass it didn't scare me. It really didn't. It took me off guard and it surprised me and I got excited, but it didn't scare me. But a lot of people will talk about being sensitive. I'm the exact opposite of that. I go to these places and I'm not really creeped out at all. I don't get any kind of feeling. I'm not, you could put me in a room where 1 million people have died and put me in a room where nobody's died. I couldn't tell you the difference. I really couldn't. Some people, say they can. I can't. I don't ever, that stuff doesn't really work on my nerves or anything like I think it does a lot of people. But, no, I hadn't ever, been on investigation and been really scared. No.
Okay. So what's the craziest case that you've worked? Do you have one that was just like crazy?
No, because mostly we would really like to go to a lot of like people's houses more, but there's a guy my brother-in-law was friends with, and he had a very haunted house. All this stuff started happening. Well, his wife passed away, and, we had contacted him, and, we're like, is there any way we'd come out to your house? And he didn't really know anything about it, but he had seen some of the stuff on TV, and he saw, like, Ghost Adventure stuff like that, where they get pretty emotional or, they try to stir up the ghost. And, he was like, I just don't want anybody doing anything like that. Because at that point, he really did think his wife was there also. And I understand that completely. But I told him, I said, look, man, we won't do anything. If you're uncomfortable with it, I won't ask anymore. But, because a lot of stuff had happened at his house before his wife ever passed away. And I was dying to go out there. But, he was like, well, I'm going to talk to my son about it, and, we'll get back to you. And I never heard from him again. But, he just thought we were going to go in there and, just try to stir it up. And he didn't, he thought his wife was there. So it was very emotional for him. But I would like to go to more places like that, because a lot of the times, a lot of the places we've gone, it's not as cool as it might seem on TV, not much happens. Most of the time when we go, this is very boring, but, we'll go for, 12, 14 hours or so. And, we might not even notice anything happen. We might get an EVP when we get back home or something like that, but not like a whole lot's going on. There's only been a few times where I've actually heard stuff, like when we were at Hills Bar Dam. There's a part in the video where, I talk about hearing somebody walking, and you can't pick it up on tape. But, I know it was somebody walking. I have no doubt of that, because there was water dripping all over that place. I know there's echoes and stuff, but I'm telling you, you could honestly hear like the footsteps kind of scraping on the ground as, the person was walking. And it wasn't the guy that was there who was like the tour guide, because that place is dark, and in the video you see he opens up this little door, and it's like a 4-story drop down to, nothing but concrete. So that's not the place. Even if you're familiar with it, you want to walk around in the dark. So he would have had a flashlight. We would have seen his flashlight about the time we would have heard him, because the way we were oriented, there was a long hallway. But most of the time, most of those places like that, it's kind of boring lots of times. It's not like a ton of stuff happens. I've never been scratched. I've never been any kind of physical contact at all. I've only seen one thing, but you've got to think, for that one little, it was like a 2-second sighting. For that 2-second sighting, no telling how many hours I've spent in, what's supposedly some of the most haunted places around here, and never seen anything.
Again, man, a lot of the shows, even though it's brought in people and maybe generated some interest, it's just, they're so far-fetched that it ends up giving, I think, people who are really serious about the subject kind of a bad name, because it used to drive me crazy, especially like on Ghost Adventures. You was talking about the reactions. You're there looking for paranormal activity and spirits. Why do you act like you're scared to death and run away when something happens? That's what you're there for.
Yeah. It's like, and I think I heard you when you were interviewing the guy talking about the Bigfoot. It's like the Bigfoot shows, so here's something, just stay there. And, we're not going to investigate that,
Yeah.
It's a Bigfoot, but we're not going to go look. Yeah.
Right.
No, there's a lot of that, and I think Taps is really bad about faking stuff. And you can look up on YouTube, if you look up ghost hunters faking evidence, there's a couple examples out there. And, there's been people that have left the show and talked about it was fake. So,
yeah.
Now, Ghost Adventures, I believe in a little bit more, because like when we went to Waverly Hills, the woman you always see doing the interviews about Waverly Hills, it's her and her husband that own it. Well, when you go there, you get to meet her and talk to her. And she was talking about when Ghost Hunters was there. She said it was a huge crew. She said no telling how many people there. There's probably 50 or 60 people, They don't show them all on camera, but there's a ton of people there. But she said, honestly, she swore that when Ghost Adventures there, it really was just the three of them. And they went in, and now they didn't show this on camera, but she said they had caught something, and I don't remember the episode well enough to know what it was, but she had talked about, they came beating on the door, and they came in, it wasn't at the end of the night, they came in, they were so excited they wanted to show her, and she said, she did believe they had seen something because they were so excited, So, yeah, but at the same time, Zach, he's just so dramatic. He's been possessed. He's been possessed. I forgot how many times now. And, he's suddenly become an empath. And, it gets ridiculous with him, man. But I don't think they're necessarily faking stuff, because a lot of the EVPs will say, oh, this is a Class A EVP. It's garbage, man. You can't hear what they're saying,
Yeah.
But so if they're going to fake evidence, I think they would fake better evidence, So I tend to believe a lot of their stuff, as far as like evidence, not being possessed. But no, a lot of it you can't believe.
When we go to my friend's house, how we were telling you earlier, if you guys would like to come, you and your wife, we would love to have you out there, because, this is not really something that Daryl and I do as far as, investigate hauntings or things like that. But she said there were so many things that happened every single day. Stuff is going on. They're seeing people, and she said she's seen full body apparitions and all kinds of stuff. So I'm anxious to get out there to her house, but I'm also a little bit scared.
Well, no. Here's the thing. I talk all this stuff about, I'm not scared at any of these places. But I've never seen a full body apparition, and I would love to say if I saw one, I would act different, but I don't know how I'm going to act. It might really scare me really bad.
Yeah.
I don't think it will, but, I can't really say with 100% certainty I'm not going to be freaking out, but no, I've never been lucky enough to see that. I really, I definitely want to see something like that, even if I get scared to death, and have a hard time sleeping for a few days. I want to see something like that.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be really neat.
But one of the things, too, I want to hit on just a little bit before we go is some of your YouTube videos that you put out there. And I was watching some of these, and I have to say, man, I do enjoy them because you come through, especially with like the EVP ones and your most recent one, the one about what are ghosts made of.
Uh-huh.
I think it's well done because you're looking at it from a scientific point of view, and that impressed me a lot.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, I mean, I really do. I like science a lot. I really geek out over the stuff. Like I'll sit and watch the, like the Universal and History Channel through the Wormhole Science Channel. I read about a lot of this stuff. I'm read articles on like new scientists and stuff like that all the time on the internet. I really get into this. When the Higgs boson was discovered in, I think it was July 4th, 2012. I shared it on Facebook. Not a single person liked it. Not a single person commented on it. Most people don't get into stuff like that, but that's when you get into like quantum mechanics and stuff like that, that's the nature of reality. That's what everything comes from. You can't say, ghosts might come from somewhere else. And, if you look at quantum mechanics, they're going to have to, because nothing that, exists can be, can explain them. So, yeah, you can say that, but I mean, everything is quantum mechanical when you get down to it. And in the next video I'm going to do about consciousness, I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff. If anybody listening to this thinks, UFOs is amazing and ghosts, I'm telling you, look into quantum mechanics. It's far creepier. It really is. And it's 100% true. This is the brightest minds in the world have thought of this stuff and have proven it. And it's not fake. It's not like they're just making it up. And a lot of people, that have seen this, I've seen people that have seen it and they're like, how do they know? They know, man. They know. In my video, I was talking about the Higgs boson. They knew about this thing for 40-something years. They had to build the LHC. America wouldn't do it. They wouldn't spend the money, so they had to go. The scientists all had to go to Europe and get them to build it. They built this thing. I think it was $13 billion. $13 billion took, I forgot how many engineers, decades to build this thing. And the whole thing is this huge machine that they take protons at 99.99% the speed of light, because they had mass. You can't get them all the way up to the speed of light. That's as fast as they can get them, and they crash them into each other. And when you do that, it's in essence kind of like a mini Big Bang, and it just splits all this stuff apart, and they look at the data and they try to pull out what they're looking for. They ran this thing for several years before they ever caught the Higgs, and they knew exactly what they were looking for. And even after they found it, they weren't sure if it was that, if the spin had been different. At first they thought it might have been the graviton. That's something else they're looking for. And it came down to the spin and a couple other things. They were like, okay, it's not graviton, and they had to look, and it was literally, about a year before they came out and said, we think we got it, but it was about a year before they were able to confirm it. And still today, it's not 100%, in science. Okay, a lot of people might disagree with me, but they call it the theory of evolution. It's not really a theory. It's pretty well documented. Human beings are closer to chimps genetically than chimps are to gorillas. We share more DNA. It's like 98.7% DNA with a chimp, whereas a chimp only has about 96% of the same DNA as a gorilla. And when people, if people really think about that, we share a common ancestor with them. We're very close to them, but it's still called a theory. The Big Bang Theory, everything points to that being, accurate. There's several Nobel Prizes that have been given out for that kind of stuff, There's a ton of evidence, but they still call it a theory, because science isn't, that's just the way science is. They're not going to tell you something if, we kind of have a hunch, let's go with this. No. If they are saying it, they know. There's a lot of stuff like global warming and stuff like that people will argue with. But that's my thing. Science seems to be a belief of convenience. If somebody gets sick, first thing they want to do is go to the doctor, a medical scientist. They want to be cured. But that same doctor says, you've been smoking. Smoking's going to kill you. You will die from smoking.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, you're going to get lung cancer, emphysema, stroke, heart attack. All that stuff's linked to cigarettes. The people are going to be like, my granddad smoked for years, never killed him.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. Science is a belief of just convenience, like I said. So, but you had to apply that same kind of thinking even to paranormal stuff,
Yeah. And that's where you and I align, is because I'm kind of a geek when it comes to theoretical physics and anything that has to do with that and the quantum mechanics. And I can't remember the name of the test, but there's a test in quantum mechanics where they shoot photons at a board.
Yeah, what it is, and I'm going into that in my next video, it's known in quantum mechanics, it's known as a measurement problem.
Yeah,
it's,
exactly.
The experiment is a double slit experiment. It goes back to Thomas Young. He first did a version of the experiment back in the 1800s, and he showed that light acted like a wave. On the 1960s, it's Germer and somebody. Look it up. I can't remember, but it's Germer and somebody. They did a more advanced version of this back in the 20s. Well, what the double slit experiment is either things act like a wave or a particle. A particle is going to be like a bullet, goes straight until it hits something. A wave radiates out. That's like a wave of water. It could be a wave of sound, a wave. But whenever you put a wave through a single slit or a particle through a single slit, and on the back behind, it's hard to explain this. You know what I'm talking about, but it's hard to explain this to people. But behind that, you'll get one single wave of intensity in line with the one opening. That makes sense.
Yes.
You push water through one opening, you're going to get one wave. Or if you, shoot a bullet through that same hole, it's going to line up with that. Now, when you add two slits in, it kind of does the same, except the wave will give you an interference pattern because, when a crest meets a trough, it's going to cancel each other out. But when two crests meet each other, it's going to intensify. So whenever they do that, like with light, you'll get bands of intensity, several of them that, radiate out from the center and get weaker, whereas when it's a particle, it's going to be two.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the crazy thing about it, and that's what I'm talking about. It shows you the nature of reality is crazier than people think, because what they started doing is they started shooting one single photon through these two slits. And over time, they got an interference pattern like it was more than one photon, but they timed it out where there was enough time between it where it couldn't be interfering with anything. So what they started doing is putting a detector. They put a detector by one slit. It would beep if it went through that slit. It wouldn't beep if it didn't go through the slit. So they, in essence, would know, okay, it went through this slit. It didn't beep here. It should have. So it went through the other slit. So when they started measuring it, it started beeping about 50% of the time, like you would expect.
Yeah.
Well, over time, it started getting two slits. But, right before they tried to measure it, they got the interference pattern, so they would take it away, and sure enough, it'd go back acting the way it was. And the best explanation they could come up with is somehow, as crazy as it sounds, that particle knows that it's being watched by a human observer.
Yeah.
And it gets even crazier, man, because they can record it with nobody in the room, and it knows it's being recorded.
Yeah.
And this is even crazier. They've even got more sophisticated as time goes on, and they've looked after it's gone through the slit, before it hits the wall, after it's gone through the slit of the particle. And when they look, it's like the information has gone back in time, and it knows it was going to be looked at because it will still do like it's supposed to. It's creepy, man. If that doesn't give you the willies, honestly, I mean, I can't believe, people aren't dorking out like me and you about this. This is some crazy stuff. It shows that consciousness is what, really brings stuff about in the universe, possibly. That's one interpretation of it. Einstein, is famously quoted as saying, I refuse to believe the moon's not there, even if I'm not looking at it. But that's what he was talking about. He was talking about, the measurement problem in quantum mechanics.
Yeah. It brings about the question of, does it work because it works, or does it work because we assume that it works that way? And because of our assumptions, and because we're watching it and saying, okay, at this time it should work this way, that's the way it's working. But when you walk away from it,
yeah, it does something different.
Yes.
Well, a lot of people, in entanglement's another weird thing. Entanglement, you can entangle two particles, and they can, in theory, be moved, and when you move one, the other one will move in the exact opposite way, but it will move instantaneously. Now, I'm not talking about the speed of sound or the speed of light. Einstein's famous for, relativity, general and special. Special was the first one he came out with. It had to do with light in a vacuum, the speed of light in a vacuum. But general relativity had to do with the speed of light everywhere, and that's where a lot of the, the ideas in physics come from now. But, he was proven right, and continues to be proven right. Light, anything with mass cannot travel at the speed of light, because the closer you get to the speed of light, the more massive it becomes, and it becomes a catch-22, because if it gets to the speed of light, it's infinitely massive. So you have to put even more energy into the system. It gets to a point, it's kind of like a black hole. It's one of those things that just trips you out, because in a black hole, it's infinitely, it's infinite gravity in there, so there's no way to escape a black hole once you go in. But anyway, that's a cosmological speed limit. Nothing can go, there's only photons that can go at the speed of light, because they have no mass. That's the reason they're able to do that. But almost everything else has got mass, so it can't travel at the speed of light. Even the graviton, they haven't found it yet, but gravity moves slightly slower than the speed of sound. I forgot what university it was. It was 3 or 4 years ago. It had accurately, they believed, calculated the speed of gravity, and it was a little bit less than the speed of light. So when they find the graviton, it will have mass, but it will be a very low mass.
Yeah.
But anyway, with entanglement, that is happening instantaneously. And they say, they've done this experiment miles apart, and it's instantaneous. And they said, in theory, you could take two particles that were entangled on opposite sides in the universe, and it would still work. So either one of two things are happening. Either information is traveling between the two instantaneously. Now, this isn't the speed of sound. This is instantaneous. I mean, it's like it doesn't even travel. That's a crazy idea. Nothing, seems like it should work like that. But that's either what's happening, or somehow the two are still connected. And that's what a lot of people take the interpretation as, they're somehow still connected, and we just can't see how they're connected. Kind of like if you're in a bed with a sheet over you with your feet sticking out and your head sticking out. If somebody never seen a human being, they might see the head and the feet and be like, well, that's two different things. They can't see into the sheet, the whole body connecting them. And, they think that might be how entanglement works. There's just something underneath the surface of reality that we can't see that's still connecting these two things.
Yeah. All right, Jason, look, man, we're going to have to wrap this up, unfortunately, because I could talk about this stuff all night long.
No, we need to just call each other and talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have any idea what you guys are talking about. So.
And, man, we really enjoyed having you on the show. And, man, would love to have you back on another time.
Oh, I'd love to be back on.
Yeah. I hope that you all decide to come with us when we go investigate my friend's
definitely.
house.
You don't have to question that. We'll just have to work out a time.
Okay.
All right. So if someone's trying to find you or find your organization, R.A.P.P, where can they go to look you up?
Well, I'm on YouTube. We have a Facebook page, but the website might be the easiest way. It's R.A.P.P, spelled with 2 P's, TN.net.
I've got a couple of your videos linked on our website, and if you want to later maybe send me something I can put on the website where people can contact you, I'll be happy to do that too.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, man.
Y'all take care.
Jason was a great guest. We really enjoyed talking to him, and he was full of energy, and he loves doing what he does. I think I could talk to him all night about quantum mechanics, but we had to end the show somewhere. Now, the field of ghost hunting is like every other facet of the paranormal world. There really are no experts. Validity of claims are as staunchly defended by believers as they are dismissed by skeptics. In the end, it's up to you to decide what you think is real and what is just smoke and mirrors. Thanks for joining us for this episode. If you like the show, help us grow by going to iTunes and leaving us a rating and a review. Or leave us a comment on Spreaker, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, our YouTube channel, or on our website at smokeandmirrorspod.weebly.com, where you can find podcasts, videos, and great Smoke and Mirrors gear. Just search for Smoke and Mirrors Paranormal on your favorite podcast player. If it isn't there, let us know. We'll be happy to get it added for you.
Also, you can find us on Facebook at Smoke and Mirrors Paranormal. Give it a like and join the discussion group so you can let us know what you think of the show. We'll be happy to respond. Please remember to send in your stories of paranormal encounters to smokeandmirrorspod@gmail.com. We would love to read those on the show. Thanks again so much for listening and subscribing. Good night.
Have a good night.